So, Madam President-elect, dear Sviatlana, thank you very much for coming here in Paris. We are so happy to make with you this discussion for our bi-monthly journal, Desk Russie. We are since a very long time writing on the situation in Belarus. For us, it's a real issue of concern. We also know that there are so many political prisoners, and that right now you have also quite a full invasion by Russian troops in Belarus. We know also your concern for both countries, Ukraine and Belarus. And in your statement very often right now you are linking the fate of those countries and the fate of the freedom of the people. So if you agree, Galia Ackerman, the editor-in-chief of Desk Russie, will ask you some questions, then I will ask some, and then we have a full conversation, free conversation.
With pleasure.
Thank you.
Good evening, Sviatlana. My first question will be quite personal. Your husband is in prison. How do you communicate with him? What do you expect for his future?
You know, my husband is already almost 2 years in jail, and he was sentenced by a so-called judge to 18 years in jail, and he's more than 1 year in solitary cell. It's also like type of punishment. You know, people in Belarus can communicate with their friends, beloved, who are imprisoned only through lawyer. A lawyer can visit once or twice prison, just you know, to give very limited information. Because there is no privacy between lawyer and prisoner. There are cameras everywhere, and it's difficult, you know, to send special message for my husband and for others, of course. And at the moment in Belarus, officially recognized 1,067 political prisoners, but real number is much more. You know, conditions for our people, for those who are recognized as political prisoners, are much worse than even for ordinary criminals. They are humiliated there physically and morally every day, and people sometimes have to go for hunger strike or cut their veins, you know, to protect themselves or to protest sometimes. And of course, it's so painful for their families, you know, to endure all the sufferings, because so many families are split. Many relatives of political prisoners have to flee the country because they also can be repressed by this regime, to put pressure on those who are in prison for them to give more information. So, but people there behind the bars believe in us, Belarusian people, that we will continue our fight, that we will not give up, and all those years in prisons will not become real years of their lives, because the sentences are awful. 14, 11, 8 years in jail just for saying your opinion about regime, about the situation in the country, and you know, this is like a range of regime for their actions.
Yes, and you have also many children, in fact, in jails, or toddlers even, which is absolutely disaster, I mean, for their own future. They just want to break their lives, I think. Could you tell us something about you, especially, I mean, the children and the toddlers who are in jail now in Belarus? I think there are, more than 30 or 40. I don't have, I mean, all the figures in mind.
I suppose at the moment there are about 20 minors in jails, and you know, of course, it's awful that they have to spend their childhood there, and there are no special attitude to them. They are treated as all the political prisoners, and they have no rights there. Nobody can support them, and you know, but look, we have also people with diseases, with cancer, with you know, who need some medicine support, but they don't get any of them. So this is the situation.
Now moving maybe to another point which is very important, which is basically the geopolitical situation right now. You have, as I mentioned before, you have a kind of full invasions, of Russian troops in Belarus. It's obvious that they will stay there for a long time. There is a kind of new occupations, as we have in Crimea, as we have, in Donetsk and Luhansk, etc. And there is also still the project by Putin's regime and Lukashenko to merge the two countries. And especially right now, after Putin's speech on Monday, 21st of February, you have basically a new attempt, which is not new in fact, but no, it is completely public, to consider that Belarus Ukraine has no right to exist. Probably he considered himself that Belarus probably has no right to exist either. How do you analyze, these geopolitical situations, and how do you link? You made, I remember, a very strong tweet on that, on supporting Ukraine and saying that we have basically to fight for the same values. But how do you analyze the geopolitical situation right now, especially when it comes to Belarus?
I have to say that Belarus got its independence more than 100 years ago. Then it went through different situations, but still we became independent Republic of Belarus in 1991 when the USSR was collapsed. The same about Ukraine. And for this time, we identify ourselves as separate nation with our own culture, with our own language, and we don't want to be come back to the USSR times. We want to live in our own country and to decide our future by themselves. The same about Ukraine. I understand that there may be intention of the third party to retain us in the era of influence, but the time of influence has passed already. We want to develop as we want. I have to say that in Belarus there are no anti-Russian mood at all. We are absolutely friendly with Russians, and it's very difficult to see how some politicians, making people hate each other. It's not about Belarus at the moment. We see the example of Ukraine, where Russians have relatives in Ukraine and vice versa, and they don't want to be split. They don't want to argue. But these political games make people, not to like each other, and it's awful. And of course, no one country can decide the future of any other country, to change this geopolitical world. And if there are any crises or misunderstanding occur, all of them should be decided through diplomacy, not with the help of tanks and guns. It's unacceptable in the 21st century. And moreover, I have to say that in Belarus there are no war moods, because we experienced such awful time through World War II. We experienced so much sufferings, and we don't want to believe that something like this could happen with our countries. We believe that leaders of other countries understand this as well. But this desire to return Russian kingdom is higher than people's lives, people's fates of the whole countries. So of course we condemn such behavior of Russia, and Belarusians and Ukrainians are ready to fight for their independence. It's awful that it's going on in this difficult way. It's like military invasion. Almost military invasion in Ukraine, and this threat to our independence in Belarus. But our countries our people believe in our future, in our independence future, and we have to protect this.
Yeah, and you said, maybe just a follow-up question very quickly, you condemned rightfully, of course, in my view, the fact that Lukashenko also sends troops to Kazakhstan to repress the demonstration in Kazakhstan. Also that he sent also some troops to Syria, fighting alongside criminal Assad regime and Russia, obviously. Could you just say something about that?
I think it was done just to show loyalty to Kremlin. Because after elections 2020, the only country that supported Lukashenko was Russia, and Lukashenko has to pay something for this support, and it seems to us that he doesn't solve anything at all now, because when he was asked, "Are you going to rule forever?" he told, "I have to consult with my old brother, president of Russia," and so Belarusians consider themselves to be neutral country. We don't want to be dragged into any conflict. We don't want our soldiers to go to other territories for advantage of the third party. But Lukashenko now is trapped, and he has to pay for the support.
You will have a referendum next Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
How do you evaluate this referendum? What the proposed changes in the constitution, and whether you think people will really vote for it?
So first of all, we don't consider this referendum to be legitimate, because Lukashenko lost last elections. He is not considered to be legitimate leader of our country, and he doesn't have right to hold anything. Okay, nobody in Belarus asked for a referendum. People in Belarus are asking for new elections, and this referendum maybe is only for Lukashenko, but he proposes to Belarusians choose between Lukashenko and Lukashenko. This new constitution doesn't solve crisis in our country, doesn't doesn't bring any change, to our, to our people. But what is very concerning about this constitution that is going to be adopted is that neutrality and non-nuclear status is going to be eliminated from this new constitution. So we see how Lukashenko can abuse this so-called constitution to create a threat to European Union. But of course, we have to use this event among Belarusians, use in our advance. So we ask people, come to the polling stations and not to vote against or for, but choose all the options, just to spoil the ballot, to say Lukashenko once again no. But of course they will count as they want. Honesty is not about Lukashenko's regime. Even now, when several people wanted to register as observers, they are in jail. So, of course, we need it's like crucial time for Belarus that such changes in constitution can be done against people's will, and we are asking for democratic society in advance say that we don't consider this constitution legitimate, or this referendum, and nobody is allowed to undermine our independence.
Just one small question, but very important one. You mentioned the neutral status of Belarus, which is supposed to also the absence of nuclear arms. Like Ukraine, Belarus signed the Budapest referendum in '94, but the drills which just took place in Belarus were the drills with missiles which can be both conventional and nuclear. Do you think that Lukashenko and Putin can install now systems of so-called defense really against Europe with nuclear heads?
As far as I know, I could be mistaken, I don't know, but I was told that some equipment for nuclear weapon is already been installed in Belarus. But I may be mistaken, just don't take my words for reality. And of course, while Lukashenko is weak and he's weak and he's weakening more and more, he can adopt all the conditions that President of Russia proposed to him, and they can put Russian nuclear weapon at our land, and against the will of Belarusian people, and it will create tension in the region. It will create threat for European countries. That's why it's necessary to act today, not to wait until something worse than hijacking of airplane or hybrid attack on Europe happened.
So thank you very much for answering your questions. We could have, of course, many others, but it was a great pleasure to have you, and we want also to express on the name of Desk Russie our full support to you, to the Belarusian people, and especially with a special thought to those who are in jail right now. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and stay with Belarus.
Yes, we will.